They're given some seed capital in order to be able to perfect their business plan and to really try to refine the scope and the reach of that particular business, with the ultimate goal of that enterprise, or those enterprises, I should say, being able to pitch their idea and concept to seasoned venture capitalists and angel investors, to then hopefully grow their concept beyond the early stage cycle. So what we're seeing now is that in years past, entrepreneurs were kind of on their own. You either had to go to the library, you had to go to organizations like SCORE, the Black Business Association. I mean, there were a number of groups around town that you could go to try to get advice on, hey, how do I start? How do I staff my business? How do I try to capitalize my business? And so it was pretty much a hit or miss proposition, and you had to kind of learn on the fly. Now we're seeing organizations pool resources. We're seeing organizations create basically a systemic way of being able to transfer an entrepreneur from the early stage to more of a growth phase in their business. And that's when we start talking about the ecosystem. You're seeing organizations like Wolf River Angels, which was an offshoot of Seed Hatchery, because we saw a need there for these companies to be able to access capital. So there are just more and more services now being made available to entrepreneurs, because I think coming out of the global recession, people realize that innovation and creativity are going to be the mainstay for us being able to recapture some of the lost capital that we've seen kind of, I guess, proliferate in our communities over the last few years, because it's been pretty tough.
Well, what are some of the, and speaking in terms of tough, because we realize that everybody wants to start a business. People say, I want to have a business, and I recall the minister saying, if you have a business card or you're conducting business and you're not making money, it's just a hobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
So knowing that there are a great number of folks that have started and shut down, and there are a number of folks who are out there now that are thinking, oh boy, I just want to start a business. What are some of the problems that you have experienced with startup businesses?
I think first, most people start businesses because they have a product knowledge or a skill set that they think that they want to go into business providing that product knowledge or that skill set. Hey, I'm a master carpenter, so now I want to become a general contractor. I love baking cakes. My friends love my cakes. I think I'm going to start a cake baking business. And what happens is they get so intoxicated on the thought of wealth and the thought of freedom of, that, hey, I can be my own boss, that they forget to stop and simply plan and to really think through what makes their business unique, why would someone buy their product, how are they going to get their product to market, who are their competitors, and how are they going to ultimately be successful. They have no roadmap. So that's one of the main things I see. People want to get to the end result without any of the forethought and planning. They just want to, hey, take me straight to, profitability, and, I want to go public and I'm going to do all these wonderful things. And that's just not realistic.
Yeah. Well, there's a common thread apparently. And so we want to talk about the two common threads. There's a common thread among those people and those businesses that are not successful. And then there is a common thread that is shared among all of the successful business owners. Let's go ahead and get the negative one out of the way. What's a common thread that you have seen and noticed among all businesses that tend to, unfortunately, not succeed?
From the small business perspective and kind of the early stage business perspective?
Let's say small to medium, yeah.
I would say selfish owners. I think that's one of the keys. They're selfish in terms of wanting to meet their needs on the backs of other people's and not necessarily treating those people with respect, because I think many times that feeds into the quality of product or service that their business is ultimately providing. If you've got unhappy staff, you're going to have unhappy customers, and that's going to correlate into lost profitability and ultimately the demise of the business. The other is, I think, just very, very poor planning. Lack of planning in general would have to be at the top of the list. You can overcome capitalization issues with planning and forethought and being resourceful. But to just be out there flying by the seat of your pants, really, I think, dooms a business to failure. I mean, it's almost no way around that.
Wow. Yeah, and you know, there are a few quotes that kind of go along with some of the things that you've said, like people really don't care how much you care until they know how much you care, until they, care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's so true, and it's kind of a tongue twister, I guess I should say that about 10
Another
times.
one is what people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan.
Fail to plan, absolutely.
Very true statement.
And what we'd like to do is to take that one and just kind of bury that one, because we really want the folks in the audience to hear it and know some of those things that they really don't want to subscribe to or prescribe to. What about the folks that you know of, including yourself, that would be an attribute of a successful person and or business?
Well, another thing it made me think of is, I heard once someone say, in order to become successful, you've got to increase your failure rate, which means you ultimately have got to try and learn from those unsuccessful opportunities in order to ultimately become successful. So perseverance is a major, major issue. I mean, you can't expect to walk out on a field on a baseball diamond and start hitting home runs the first day. It takes time to perfect your craft. So it's the same way in business. I mean, you have got to put the time and energy into understanding your business, your market, and understanding what it is that you as a business provide different than your competitors. Many people want to skip past that, as I said earlier, but there's just no way around it. I think planning is paramount.
Absolutely.
And just when you think you got the plan worked out, it's time to do it again.
Absolutely.
And then it's time to do it again. Yeah. And you may have been successful with a particular product line or a particular formula for many, many years, but you're going to find yourself at some point realizing that you've got to change course. There's going to be a new demand in the marketplace. There's going to be new competitors, and you've got to respond to that. So you can't rest on your laurels just assuming that life is going to always be good if you are fortunate enough to get past that first 5 to 7 years, which most businesses don't survive.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Mr. Christopher Lee, the owner of the CEL Group, and we're talking about starting businesses and growing small to medium-sized businesses. Now, we want to make sure that we share something with the younger segment of our population, because quite honestly, I think that's where a lot of our creativity,
Absolutely.
you know, we've got the brain trust, if you will, but a lot of our creativity lies within our young people. So with that being said, what advice would you give a young person who really wants to get out on their own?
Don't be afraid to fail, first and foremost. I would also say seek counsel from people who have been in business for many years, because to me, I think that there are synergies between maybe younger entrepreneurs who have new and innovative ways of looking at situations, but I think if you can pair that with more seasoned veteran entrepreneurs, I think that's a recipe for success. You've got a lot of people who've got amazing ideas, but just aren't sure of how to get that to market, aren't sure how to create value with that business proposition. But if you're able to talk to some people maybe who have been in business before or who've been successful throughout the years in business, they may be able to help you get a little more traction and get there a little bit faster. But I think if you look at our country and our history, most of our success throughout the years has been traced to that of young people who aspired to have more than the previous generation. And I think we're just kind of at that phase now with regard to technology in particular. You're seeing a lot of very, very young people amass tremendous amount of success because they're applying almost a new science to a proven business sector.
Well, you know, you and I have been in these positions quite some time, and quite a number of times. My wife and I are in business, as you know. Once again, you and I have, I've had the pleasures of knowing you for a few years now, and doggone it, you've just been so busy, I haven't been able to track you down and get you here, so finally you're here.
I really do appreciate it.
It gets really dark and lonely and cold as an entrepreneur, as a business owner.
Yes, it does.
For those that are looking at you right now and saying, I'm just throwing in the towel, I'm just giving up, or I just want to sell my business and leave this alone, what advice would you give them?
Never, ever give up. Period. Never, ever quit. You may have to reinvent yourself. You may have to alter the direction, but never, ever quit. Part of my history is I've lost it all twice. I don't aim to have that happen a third time. It's not fun. It's not an enjoyable thing at all. But those experiences have helped make me a much better businessman today. They've helped me just enormously, those experiences. They've been the best teachers that I've ever had. So I would tell anybody that's out there that's an aspiring entrepreneur, do not fool yourself into thinking it's going to be all easy, because it's not going to be. You may have some easy years, you may have some fun times, but there's going to be some challenges that face your business at some point in time. And you've got to be prepared to stare those down and continue to move forward. Even in the face of the most tremendous adversity, you've got to keep moving forward some kind of way. I would also suggest that people, not just young people, but any aspiring entrepreneur, surround themselves with people who care about them. Not necessarily people who are tied to the business, but people who understand them, who can support them on those dark days to say, hey, keep going. Keep fighting, keep trying. I understand your plight. Have you thought about it this way? That will carry you a very, very long way.
Wow, okay, that sounds great. Well, in the interest of time, and it's narrowing down, boy, I tell you, we could do this for hours and hours, so maybe at some point we will get some investors out there. Maybe we could do a documentary on Christoper Lee and the CEO Group.
Maybe so.
That would be quite interesting. As we are winding down, I would really like for you to share with the folks in our audience, just real quickly, if you could give me a 2 or 3 word phrase as we're closing out to encourage our business owners.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Okay.
And be prepared for the challenge of your life.
Wow.
That's first and foremost. Be prepared.
Always expect the unexpected.
Absolutely.
Thank you for those words of wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this has been Christoper Lee on The Best Of. I'm your host, Ricky Tucker. It has certainly been a pleasure. Once again, we will have to see about how we can reconvene.
Absolutely.
This has been Ricky Tucker once again on The Best Of, focusing on the best in the areas of business, entertainment, sports, and the community. We'd like to thank you for watching, and remember to always be your best.